So, I just want to say, if you haven't played Omori before watching this, go play it. There are going to be some mild spoilers, and trust me here, the game is best when going in blind. Something I see too much in fanfics and AUs, alternate universes, if you're boring and you don't know, is Sunny and Mari having a healthy family life. I mean, it's never explicitly said that their family is unhealthy, but it is heavily implied, which is what I'm gonna talk about here. Just taking the canon, their father is gone and mother is out of town when the events of the game take place. This abandonment likely didn't come out of nowhere, so that's what I'm going to unpack. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the characters we know, Sunny and Mari. Picking apart their characters will give a lot more evidence for my argument later on, so it would be best to get that out of the way first. First, I'm going to talk about Mari. She's so me! But there's something to define first, because, context is important. Golden child syndrome is when one child, typically the oldest sibling, is idealized and favored, and also held under high parental expectations. According to Cleveland Clinic, quote, Golden child syndrome is a family dynamic where parents see and treat their child as perfect. Parents shower them with praise and attention, and don't hold them responsible for bad behavior. Some golden children develop an arrogant, self-centered worldview as a result. Their parents also hold their kid to unreasonably high standards, so their child feels defined by their successes and failures. If a golden child has siblings, they're usually either overlooked or scapegoated. End quote. Mari shows heavy perfectionism, which eventually led to her death. A golden child feels defined by their successes and failures, so it isn't much of a stretch to assume that she was the golden child. More signs of this syndrome include problems with identity formation, people-pleasing, growing up too fast, and a fear of failure. Due to Mari being dead when the game takes place, you don't really see much of her personality. However, the Truth photo album, Memory Lane, photo album captions, the Duet cutscene, and moments in Headspace, particularly Black Space, can piece together her personality. Although the Headspace sections should all be taken with a grain of salt as they are mostly idealized, basing the analysis on the fact that it takes place in Sunny's mind can help find more of Mari's true personality through analyzing how Sunny views her. Spoiler warning, do not watch any further if you haven't played. You get as long as it takes for me to turn the page to get out. The Truth photo album, which details the events of Mari's death, can show how Mari acts, especially with her golden child syndrome. For a quick recap, Mari and Sunny were practicing a duet, when Sunny got tired of practicing and broke his violin at the foot of the stairs. Because of this, Mari and Sunny argue at the top of the stairs before Sunny tries to leave, Mari getting in his way. Then Sunny accidentally pushes Mari down the stairs to her death. I'm not going to get into the rest with Basil as it's not really necessary for this essay. In-game, she's shown to be a perfectionist, having practiced piano for hours on end, even being described as overbearing. On 2 days left, upon walking into her spirit playing piano, she says this, quote, waltzes were always my favorite. That's why I chose this song for our last recital. But you always hated it, didn't you? How I'd lock myself away on the piano, all that practicing, playing the same song over and over. When you first picked up your new violin, you were so eager to play with me. But keeping up with something isn't so easy. Maybe I pushed you too hard. I'm sorry, I just wanted it to be perfect. We never did get to play at that last recital. Did you want to play it with me now? End quote. She very forwardly admits to aiming for perfection with her music and having pushed Sunny too hard to also conform to her perfection. And if you didn't know, Golden Child Syndrome is actually a form of child abuse. Abuse and trauma is a cycle, especially when in families. Taking the canon of the game, their parents are shown to be active, at the very least, in the early years of their lives, based on the picture in the house. But, taking Mari being the golden child into consideration, if they were neglectful, Mari would parent Sunny, based on her parents' abuse. Mari would likely push the high standards she was raised with onto her brother, furthering the cycle. A major part of her character, and this argument, is that Mari was the mother of the group. The official strategy guide describes her as this, quote, Big Sister Mari is the glue that holds everyone together. She is always around with her warm smile and a word of advice. take a break at her picnic blanket for some well-earned respite and refreshment, end quote. Here, she is described as kind and helpful, always taking care of her friends, which is about the textbook definition of a mom friend. A very common trait in mom or therapist friends, which also somewhat connects to the golden child argument, is growing up too fast. When you think of a 15-year-old, someone in their freshman year of high school, do you think of someone preparing for college, working a job, and practicing music in all their free time? I assume not. That certainly is not a typical teenage experience. But as stated in game, this was Mari's teenage experience. In Memory Lane, one of my personal favorite parts of the game, simply because of how much it feeds into my theories, Hiro talks about him and Mari working at a bakery for a few months. This would most likely have been when they were 14, which is the lowest legal age to have a job. Still, although old enough and only to save for Sunny's violin, it isn't typical of any younger teen. There's a caption that definitely adds to this, saying, quote, Sunny giving Mari a big hug. Mari doesn't come home until late now because she's taking extra classes to prepare for college. Me and Sunny have been hanging out a lot, but I'm sure he still misses her a lot. End quote. Now, preparing for college is very normal in high school, but in freshman year, that's a bit overboard. This evidence clearly shows that Mari overworks herself due to having grown up too fast, needing to act mature, or her perfectionistic tendencies, but likely a combination of both. To quote the New Yorker, quote, according to Hewitt, this is the one thing that distinguishes true perfectionism from a mere pursuit of excellence. Reaching the goal never helps, whether it's a top grade, a target weight, or a professional milestone. Achievement, he says, doesn't touch that fundamental sense of being unacceptable. Perfectionism perpetuates an endless state of striving. It's an affliction of futility, an addiction to finding masochistic refuge in the familiar hell of feeling insufficient. It might not feel good, but it feels like home. End quote. To summarize this character breakdown, my evidence shows that Mari suffered golden child syndrome, having grown up too fast, and showing extreme perfectionism, which she pushed onto Sunny, perpetuating the cycle of abuse I think runs rampant in their family. Moving on to the next character analysis, which I think is going to be significantly shorter than Mari's, as I'm really only analyzing what is important to the thesis. Sunny being a codependent person appears a lot in the story of Omori, particularly in his relationship with Basil. But I believe this behavior shows in his other relationships, particularly in his relationship with Mari. According to Psychology Today, quote, codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can occur just as easily between parent and child, friends, and family members, end quote. The most obvious example of a codependent relationship including Sunny is, as stated earlier, him and Basil. In both cases, with Basil and Mari, Sunny is the taker in the relationship. I will discuss how this affects his relationship with Mari later on, but Basil is the giver in their relationship, and at even 12, he sacrificed his mental well-being to protect Sunny after the incident, and also protected him by letting Aubrey bully him for years over the photo album, taking the blame away from Sunny. Another major factor in the codependent relationship is not leaving. Basically being stuck together, even if the relationship is extremely unhealthy. Based on Sunny's reaction to Mari's death, being isolation for years, and Basil's death on the neutral ending being suicide, being left after these relationships would feel like the end of the world, as does the end of a codependent relationship. To sum this up, Sunny's codependent tendencies heavily affects his relationships and plays a part in the unhealthy family dynamic. Also, I said this was going to be shorter. I really only had to analyze his codependency. Just about the most important part of this essay is the relationship between the members of Sunny and Mari's family. Their parents are absent for most of the plot, which is actually more important to this analysis than you might think. The first relationship I'm going to talk about is Mari and her parents. For one, Mari never brings up her mother, and her mother never brings her up, minus one line about losing her only daughter. However, I think there is more to look into with her relationship with her father. He was only brought up once in relation to Mari, in this caption in the photo album, quote, Mari and Hiro fell asleep on the couch. They look so cozy together. Hehe. I hope they don't mind the photo. Mari's dad might be kind of mad if he saw it. End quote. The last line had me thinking since I saw it on my first playthrough. Why would he be upset? Typically, people start entering relationships around 14 or 13 even, and there aren't any visible negative effects, so why would this be a possibility? First of all, a strained relationship would be the only logical reason to hide a relationship from your parents. Second, this one line likely signals that Mari's father was disapproving of her and Hiro's relationship. If her father was disapproving, this leads me to believe that he was also disapproving of many things in Mari's life. Anything less than perfection. This is why I believe the parent that instilled her golden child syndrome and perfectionism was her father, although her mother likely played a part as well, though more minor. There is one more detail that I think signals a neglectful relationship with her parents is in this caption from the photo album. Quote, Hiro and Mari washing dishes from breakfast. We're staying over with Mari and Sunny this weekend. It's getting warmer lately, so we're about to check the park. Cal says there's a secret lake area behind some bushes, so we're all going to check it out. End quote. Okay, so before going into this, I wanted to share a bit of my background information that influences this. So, out of my friend group, my mother is the most relaxed, I guess. Typically, she's off doing her own thing, and I'm left to my own devices. Now, my friends almost always stay over at my house because of how few adults there are and how relaxed they are most of the time. So, basically, we can just do whatever. The reason I bring this up is because of the line in the caption. Quote, We're staying over with Mari and Sunny this weekend. End quote. It may seem inconspicuous, but with further analysis and taking into account the evidence shown in this essay prior, it makes sense that everyone would stay over with them, having neglectful parents. Teens and children tend to prefer spaces with less adults, with their friends, as they have more freedom, so they spend the most time at their house. They have the most neglectful parents, or even no parents living with them at all. So it would make the most sense to spend the most time with them at their house. Also, this photo was taken about 5 months and 5 days before the treehouse was completed, so that would not be a factor in where they spend their time. On the contrary to Mari, Sunny's dad is hardly mentioned in relation to him, save the dialogue in the 11th hangman hole as he chops down the tree Mari was hanged on. There isn't much to unpack, as that was likely a real scenario, as the very same tree was cut down in the real world. The parent I want to focus on more here is his mother. She has been gone for an unspecified amount of time, leaving Sunny alone with only voicemails which don't have to be heard, and sticky notes around the house that could be totally ignored. Also, Sunny had no food, minus a steak that had been sitting in the fridge for who knows how long, which was definitely rotten and cold when eaten, as there was no power, so neither the fridge nor the microwave worked. Also, Sunny had stopped going to school at some point after Mari's death, which is a violation of truancy laws. Since his mother was the parent responsible for him, she should have had to go to court, at least over the violations. But nothing in the game suggests that ever happening, so she must not have been present in Sunny's life, likely in another town or somewhere the local authorities would not have found her. Some may suggest that she cares about Sunny because she knows his favorite food and tells him to take care of himself. And while I agree she was certainly more present in Sunny's life than his father, these are only surface level things and do not indicate someone taking care of and truly understanding another. Plus, who would leave an obviously depressed and traumatized child alone for days on end? She wasn't even seen at the hospital after the fight with Basil, which is not something a truly concerned and caring mother would do. The last relationship I'm going to talk about here is by far the most important to the game, Mari and Sunny. As I said in my short Sunny analysis, their relationship was codependent. According to Newport Academy, quote, in healthy parent-child relationships, parents give and children receive. The role of a parent is to provide care and unconditional love so that children are free to focus their energy on learning and growing. However, not all individuals have the stability and inner resources to be this kind of parent. Instead, they may rely on their children in inappropriate ways. This result is a phenomenon known as parentification. Parentification can be a form of parental neglect or abuse, particularly in extreme cases. This can result in what's known as relational trauma. Relational trauma occurs in childhood when the bonds between parent and child are somehow disrupted or broken. This creates a state of chronic stress in which children are unable to access the support and connection they need. End quote. They are codependent in the way that Mari is a parentified child, the primary caregiver for Sunny. The biggest indicator for this is Mari's role in Headspace. She serves as a point where you can save and heal, always being ready to provide for her friends. Headspace, quite obviously based on the name, takes place in Sunny's head. All the characters are based on his thoughts and opinions, each an idealized version of who they were. Mari being the constantly cheery mother of the group most likely would translate to her being Sunny's constantly stressed caregiver, the closest thing to a mother he had with the neglect from his actual parents. One detail I would like to point out is in the spider forest room in Black Space, a large spider with hair that looks just like Mari's, dead. This spider is called Mother Spider. A mother being dead with the same hair as Mari. This just feeds into the theories. Another bit I want to point out is from the Secret Lake memory on Memory Lane, particularly the dialogue for the remembrance. Quote, "The feeling of sleeping on Mari's lap felt more comfortable because you knew that, no matter what, Mari would always keep you safe." End quote. It should be common knowledge that typically children feel safe and protected with their parental figure, but not particularly the same way with an older sibling. Sunny recalls the feeling here that if Mari, his mother figure, was there with him, he would be safe. While the parentification seems as if it would primarily affect Mari, I would argue that it also negatively affected Sunny. The high expectations and perfectionism that were pushed onto Mari would likely be pushed onto Sunny in return, worsening his social anxiety, which caused him to be so quiet. To quote the National Library of Medicine, quote, "For example, Rice and Ashby, 2007, contend that maladaptive perfectionism entails higher scores on both the discrepancy and high standard subscales. Similarly, Stober and Otto, 2006, propose that high levels of perfectionistic concerns and perfectionistic strivings produce an unhealthy form of perfectionism. Our findings suggest that higher social anxiety is not specifically related to elevations in both aspects of perfectionism, whereas people with higher social anxiety are more likely to endorse items regarding distress about failing to meet goals, which is characteristic of Rice and Ashby's definition. They tend to report, if anything, lower standards for performance, which runs counter to most definitions of perfectionism." End quote. This is reflective of Sunny's behaviors, especially leading up to the incident. He had lower standards for his own performance, but the ideals of failure Mari had taught him were distressing enough to cause him to break his violin. This isn't to say that I think either of them are bad people. However, they're two kids in a dysfunctional family trying their best. But traumas and cycles of abuse don't stop with good intentions. Even the most well-intentioned person likely will perpetuate some form of trauma and abuse in their life. Mari deeply cared about her friends and brother, despite being abusive at times. Tried her best to be able to provide for him without help from her parents, like a normal kid. Sunny tried to fit into Mari's standards, which were higher than he could reach, and tried to be seen through the light of his sister, the perfect golden child. Although both eventually failed, culminating in the incident, they had the best intentions the whole way. Dysfunctional families can ruin things, be it relationships, mental health, or even lives. Here is an excerpt from an article by Mental Health America. Quote, "Dysfunctional families do not acknowledge that problems exist. They don't talk about them or confront them. As a result, family members learn to repress emotions and disregard their own needs. They become survivors. They develop behaviors that help them deny, ignore, or avoid difficult emotions. They detach themselves. They don't talk. They don't touch. They don't confront. They don't feel. They don't trust. The identity and emotional development of the members of a dysfunctional family are often inhibited." End quote. Family dynamics like these are unhealthy, to say the least. Characters like Mari and Sunny are amazing examples of this, as it isn't outwardly obvious, and they aren't bad-natured. I've been friends with people who have lived with dysfunctional families, and from experience, I can tell there are signs, but subtle and covered up. You don't really catch on unless you look for it, and that's what I wanted to do for this essay. Look for it. Be it in your friends, for help, or your own family, or even some fictional characters. Like what I did here. Search. You never know what you can find, be it a new theory, a new friend, or hell, even a whole essay. This is why I think that Mari and Sunny are perfect representations of a dysfunctional family dynamic. Signing off, Noor.